Well, if habits create wealth, then one of the questions we all have to ask ourselves is, what are the habits that I'm practicing? What are the habits that are controlling my decisions on a daily basis? And more importantly, are these habits those of the wealthy? In my opinion, there is one single distinction between the poor on one side and the wealthy. And I think this is very simple but very profound. Now, what is useful about this understanding or this piece of knowledge is the fact that your habits, when done repeatedly, become what we call your lifestyle. Your habits create your lifestyle. But even more importantly, your habits develop into what we call paradigms. And this is why this is so important. Your paradigms control how you think. They control how you feel. They control what you do. But interestingly, your paradigms also control what you see using your senses. They control what you hear. They control sound. They control what you believe in. But even goes further than that. There's something called your higher faculties, which is imagination, will, intuition, reason, memory, perception. Your paradigms control all of these. So the key thing you must get right is to make sure you have the right habits, because your habits control everything. So the key question you might be asking is, okay, I kind of understand what you're saying, Mensah. How do I start? I would simply say to you that to become wealthy and to maintain that lifestyle, you must commit to a lifetime. It's like a lifetime decision to continuous and constant, never-ending growth and improvement. You've got to become lifelong in learning. But let me share with you 3 or 4 very basic habits that you should develop. I believe these habits will create almost an immediate change in your life. Now, the first habit is going to be the habit of continuous learning. And I think every day you should invest between 10% and 5% of your time in developing your mind, in study. Now, 5 to 10% of your time is equivalent to between 1.5 and 2.5 hours per day. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'll let you decide whether you think 10% of your time is worth the investment. I would say this, however, every day you get 24 hours, and you must see yourself like a farmer. Every farmer understands that after a harvest, if they consume all of the seed, they have nothing else to sow. So the farmer must take a portion of the harvest and put it back in the soil for the next season. You are a farmer, and every day you get 24 new seeds. Those seeds are measured in hours. You must take a portion and reinvest for the next season. That simply means take a portion of your day and set it aside to feed in your mind. Now, you feed your body every day. You nourish your body. So many of you, depending on where you're watching from, you at least have 3 or 2 meals every day. Now, think about this. If you're 20 years old, you've been feeding yourself consistently for 20 years, and that's why your physique is the way it is. My question is simply this. In the last 30 days, what have you fed your mind? If you were to just disregard all of the social media and sensational stuff we get from the news and all the entertainment, what amount of good, healthy food have you fed your mind? Take away all the junk. Ask yourself the simple question: how much growth, how much learning, how much development have you passed into your mind in the last 30 days? See, to create wealth, it begins through study, and it begins in your mind. You know, Napoleon Hill said that if whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. It has less to do with your education. It has to do more with your ability to use your mind. And you get the best from your mind through study. The second thing I want to share with you is this. You must find mentors or a coach. And I think this is so profound. Most people do not really see the benefit of this. One of the things I know for certain and for a fact is every wealthy person has a council of advisors. They have mentors, they have coaches, they have people who they can refer back to for strategic decisions. If you've ever watched the likes of Tiger Woods, if you've ever watched any of the professional players, one of the things you notice is that some of the professional players have 2, 3, 4 coaches, people who just sit back and observe their play. Now I heard even in MMA, some of the professional fighters have about 3 or 4 different coaches from different various areas within the martial arts industry. And these are people who can sit back and just watch you and observe you. These are masters in their own craft, but they can observe you and critique and tell you what you're doing well, what you have to improve, but also what you have to correct. In the same way, you must see yourself like a professional, like a golfer. You know, whilst you're taking a swing, you can't see yourself as you swing. You need someone to stand back, watch you swing, and afterwards tell you what you need to change or adjust. Now it's quite interesting that just by making a 1% improvement in your swing, you can make a dramatic impact on the results you're getting. All it takes is a little slight change. But most people never make those changes because they're trying to do both at the same time. It will not work. It will not work. If you want to be wealthy, find yourself a mentor, find yourself a coach, someone who can critique you. Now, you don't have to do this every day. You can do this every month. You could spend 30 minutes or 60 minutes with someone who can look through what you've done in the last month, look at your decisions and tell you whether you're making the right decisions to get you to the future you want. It's a lot easier to course correct along your journey towards wealth than to wait until the end of the year to find out that you've already failed. You know, you want to correct every single month, and that requires commitment. The next thing I'll talk about is what I think is important. I believe we should all consider having a bookkeeper. Now, that might sound a little bit off, but let me explain the reason why. There are 2 documents that are essential if you want to create wealth. I think these documents, in my opinion, I call them the crystal ball to your financial destiny. I can spend a whole day just teaching about these 2 documents, because hidden in those documents, if you understand how to read them and prepare them, it's like you can see your future. You could change the future. The 2 documents, one is called your financial statement, the second is called your wealth statement. Now, most of us work every single day, so we're busy. At the end of the month or the end of the week, it's difficult to sit down and start looking through everything you've spent. And I believe that that is something you can delegate, because someone can do that at the minimum wage rate. You can pay someone £10 or £15 for an hour, and they can collect all of your expenses, maybe from your credit card statement or your bank statement, and they can prepare a financial statement for you so that you can analyze what I call the cash flow pattern in your life, and then you can make strategic decisions to make sure that you're not financially poor, that you're not making poor decisions. Remember, I started with a number of key things, one of which was habits. Your financial statement and your wealth statement will tell you whether you have poor habits and what you need to correct. So I think one of the key things you must do is get a bookkeeper and have someone spend 1 hour every month updating your financial statement. And once it's done, you have to sit down and spend, I think, between 60 and 120 minutes, which is 2 hours, reviewing your performance, because you have to make the right decisions. You have to correct your course. The fourth thing I'm going to talk about is what I call self-image. All of us have a self-image. And our self-image is lodged in the mind. Wealth is created first in the mind. If you want to become wealthy, you've got to change the picture you have about yourself today. A lot of people, when they think about money, when they think about wealth, they have negative feelings associated with that. I grew up in a time and in an environment, for example, where people would say money is the root of all evil. They would say things such as, it's much more difficult for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go get into the kingdom of heaven. Most people would say things such as, well, if God wanted you to have money, he would have given it to you. I heard things such as, well, there's so many poor people because God loves poor people. Now, these were all negative beliefs as a result of ignorance. And it took a lot of study and a lot of development and a lot of flushing out all of the old beliefs for me to change and get more empowering beliefs. That meant that I had to recondition, I had to redesign my self-image. And every day I have to keep working on it because there's so much out there that's trying to stop me in terms of external things I see, I hear, influences. They're trying to stop me from my purpose and achieving my dreams and goals. It's no different with you. We all have that experience. You just have to become more intentional. Therefore, one of the things you must do is do what Paul said. Paul the Apostle said, don't be conformed to this world. You must renew your mind. He said, be not conformed of this world. Be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind, meaning keep reminding yourself of that wealthy, rich self-image you have or that you want to experience. Now, I think if you were to discipline yourself to practice these four things, I think you can change your life. Now, I will say that two of the items here are done on a monthly basis. Number 1 and number 4 have to be done on a daily basis, consistently. By doing that, what you find is you start to change a lot of your habits, your paradigms, and your lifestyle. And hopefully, you'll propel yourself towards achieving your dreams and goals. I hope that's been useful. God bless.